Namaskar. Good evening. Welcome everyone to the 9th day of the My Bharat online campaign organized by Disha Bharat. Hearty welcome to Dr. Rakesh Sinha, our Honorable MP in Rajyasabha and the speaker for today. I am Bhavana Kashyap, a full-time coordinator with Disha Bharat. The topic for today is SWARAJYA 75, Bharat after independence. For a nation to progress, its youth have to be aligned to the cause of nation building. Disha Bharat is an organization working with the youth in the last 16 years with the vision transform youth to transform nation. Disha Bharat takes a multi-pronged approach to sensitize the students on socially relevant topics. Values and skills are often taught in silos. However, for example, if we look at a skill like communication, one might be a very good speaker, but if values like patriotism, respect, empathy is not integrated to the speech, the words one might use may become hurtful. Hence, Disha Bharat uses a value-based skill development approach. Importance of one or individual in nation building is also highlighted. Students are encouraged to positively contribute in this process of nation building. This is also put to practice through our internships. Disha Bharat's newsletter also emphasizes on the 5 quotients: physical, emotional, intellectual, social, and spiritual. Student readers are inspired by the real life incidents, articles, and videos published in our newsletters. Without much ado, I would like to call upon Srimati Suma Nagesh, a soothing counselor and a volunteer at Disha Bharat, to introduce the speaker for today. Thank you very much. Over to you, Suma ma'am.
Good evening to all of you. Namaskara. On behalf of Disha Bharat, I have immense pleasure in introducing today's speaker, Dr. Rakesh Sinha. Dr. Rakesh Sinha is a nominated member of Rajyasabha, the upper house of the Parliament of India since July 2018. He is amongst the foremost protagonists of inclusive development, egalitarianism, and social justice. In his 3 years as a parliamentarian, he has made an indelible impact by raising important issues and addressing fundamental problems faced by the people of India. Dr. Sinha has introduced 3 private member bills: Population Control, Terminated Employees Welfare Bill, Public Registry Credit Bill to protect data. BA Honours from Hindu College, MA with gold medal, and also a PhD holder in political science. Dr. Sinha is currently also serving as a professor of political science at the Motilal Nehru College, University of Delhi. He has authored several books, including a biography of Rashtriya Swayamsevaka Sangha founder, Dr. KB Hegdewar. It was much admired in academic circles and later was translated to many other Indian languages. The book proved a bestseller, ranking as the book with the highest sale under the series Builders of Modern India. Dr. Sinha's brilliant and logical articulation draws admiration presented from all cutting across the party lines. He was presented the Deen Dayal Upadhyay Award by the then President Shri Pranab Mukherjee. He donated the entire amount of the prize money for the social cause. Here we have Dr. Rakesh Sinha with us. I heartily welcome you for this series SWARAJYA 75, and we are going to hear the best words about Bharat after independence. Sir, I heartily welcome you all on behalf of Disha Bharat. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumaji. Bhavnaji and Sumaji and all other who are participating in this discourse. You know, this is a very important occasion. Today is 9th August, the day when the Quit India movement was declared against the British Empire. So I think that today, debating, discoursing, or dialoguing on a subject which concerns to the independence, pre-independence and post-independence constitute a very important in our life. You know, every nation has one objective: to redefine itself, to become the part of the world mission. This world mission means shaping the destiny of the humanity. If a society or a group of people think in terms of humanity and then tirelessly work for that, that becomes world mission. It also becomes important for those societies which claim and act in reality the part of ancient civilization, which India is. What is difference between, before coming to the topic, I am just describing what is difference between India and other civilizations. What fundamental difference? If I have to point out one difference, that is, other civilizations, whether it was Mesopotamia, Greek, Roman, these civilizations had their history. They had history. They are the part of important historical area of the space, part of the historical space. They have impact on contemporary world, certain countries of Europe. But Indian civilization, which is actually to be named as Hindu civilization, has never been categorized or classified as in a past tense. It always remained the present tense. So there is a continuity and the evolution. Continuity, the evolution, that is the basic difference between the Indian or Hindu civilization and all other civilizations, contemporary or the earlier civilization which existed in our globe. This difference must be marked before debating and discoursing or having any dialogue on a modern nation state. If we will not presume this thing, if we will not take this presumption with us, then all discourse would be a discourse on a half apple, not the full apple. The West trying to create a discourse that is the half apple discourse. It creates a history of modern nation states. Therefore, when we debate on India at 75 or after 75 or before independence, India's civilizational, cultural, and social status, we have to think in terms of continuity and evolution. This is not some kind of invention by one individual or other individual. I'm giving one example. Pandit Kamalapati Tripathi, in his young stage, when he was the Constituent Assembly's member, he spoke something which summarizes what I said. He said that the very name of Bharat creates a vibration among us. It is not like other names. When you take the name of America, you take the England, you go to the history of 400 years, 500 years, or 1000 years. But when you take the name of Bharata, you go back to thousands of years. There's endless. History does not limit your imagination. And that is not merely imagination, that is based on empirical evidences we have in both literary sense and in material sense. So he further says that. Very important quote from Kamalapati Tripathi. Later on, he became a cabinet minister in Indira Gandhi government. He said that Bharata is the only name. Bharata has preserved its name and genius even undergoing the amount of repression, insults, and prolonged slavery. Despite all these things, Bharat has preserved its name, its genius. And I'm telling you that how did we preserve? That contemporary India, in various libraries and manuscript libraries, we have 5 million manuscripts, available manuscripts, which are known. I consider that equal amount of manuscripts which are not known to us. 5 million, one university, the Sampurnanand Sanskrit University has almost 1,40,000 manuscripts, and Rajasthan Oriental Research Institute has 1,16,000 manuscripts. In Chennai, the manuscript library has almost 72,000 manuscripts. Despite the fact that in Europe, there are 60,000 manuscripts, Indian manuscripts are lying in Europe, various libraries of Europe. And more than 150,000 manuscripts in South Asian and Asian countries. This shows the mammoth of the civilizational content we have. Despite also the fact that almost 10 million documents were burnt in the Nalanda University, which was established in 400 centuries contemporary era and continued till almost 1187 of the contemporary era. The Vakir Khilji burnt almost 10 million documents. Many people don't know. The only book came, which I know, on the University of Nalanda by Sakalia in 1934, describing how the 100 parallel lectures continued in the university in the same day. Every day, 100 lectures in that university continued. So what I want to say, that this is a civilizational nation state. This is not like other American or European states, Latin American states or European states, which emerged 400 years ago or 500 years ago, or which evolved from a small civilizational content. Therefore, when we discuss India Swarajya 75, naturally we will discuss the material advancement of the country. The material advancement means someone will count the number of bridges and the kilometers of roads and railways. Someone would tell you that how many universities we have created, the increased literacy rate and decreased illiteracy. Someone will also tell you that number of infant mortality has decreased and the life expectancy has increased. So we have done a tremendous material advancement, both in the field of science and also in the material life. But I consider this advancement important, but not the soul of the nation. Even if a nation state was not formed, there was no state, there was no government, not even the civil society. Nevertheless, society made their advancement. Even the pre-social stage, the pre-social and pre-political stage, humanity made its advancement, investigation, inventions. Fire was invented, and many things were invented, we know in the books of history, when there was no state, no society, no government. So material advancement is a law of nature. The only difference comes when an organized state is there, organized government is there, then the advancement goes through in a more systematic and scientific manner. It achieves certain preconceived goals. That is the only difference between the pre-state or pre-political, pre-social advancement and post-political, post-social advancement, which we are witnessing. So therefore, India's achievements, education in the field of scientific innovation and scientific weapons and our things of needs, or in the field of education, in the field of literacy, is really satisfactory, and we have a larger goal to be achieved. But here I will not emphasize all these facts. I would like to emphasize the moral progress, that is a moral advancement of the country. So there are two aspects to thinking about the nation state, particularly for those nation states who have history transcending the limits created by modern historians, European historians. That such nation states, India leads these nation states as a civilization nation state. For this nation state, moral advancement is more important. It is the moral advancement which constitutes the civilizational role of a nation state. Therefore, the larger question before us, after 75 years of independence, SWARAJYA, how much the index of moral advancement, where is the index of moral advancement? It is a higher level, it is lower level, it is at the beginning, or it is going down. These three choices are before us. These things can be understood on the basis of empirical facts, normative discourse and debate in the country about our progress in different aspects of life, which makes impact on individual, family, society, nation, and beyond the nation. Because you consider Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, how much you make impact on other part of the globe beyond Indian territory. So these are the things which are more important than other things. Yes, first thing, that what is difference between the colonial period and post-colonial period? This creates a propitious ground to think about our index of moral advancement. When we were dependent on the British colonialism, before that Mughal rule was in India. So our intellectual growth was arrested. Intellectual growth had been arrested not 1 century, 2 centuries, but almost 6 to 7 centuries. Nevertheless, despite the forces which were inimical to the basic trait, value system of India, Indian ethos progressed through intellectualism. We heard the Samarth Ramadas, Eknath. We also hear in other parts Kabir, Tulsidas. So in different parts of the country, whether they're west, east, north, or south, the intellectual growth continued despite the repressive regimes. The regime was not against only intellectualism, they were against the race which belonged to this nation. Indigenous value system, indigenous people, indigenous custom, indigenous tradition. But after independence, we had two major challenges. One challenge was to restore our own basic value system, which carries the progress of education in our own way, and also to guide the world. In other words, preparing ourselves. Our material and moral progress is not confined to India only, but both the progress with an intentional intent to lead the world mission. We are the civilization. We are the people, or who were the people and civilization, which never confined ourselves, we have never confined ourselves to our own achievements, our own advancement. Advancement, both material and moral, have been intended to give the world a leadership which we generally speak in general parlance as Vishwaguru. In modern context, it should be interpreted that the becoming the part of democratically defined world narratives for shaping the destiny of the humanity. As much as your role to democratically define that narrative, when you democratically define that narrative, means you are making impact on the lives of the people. You are entering the arena, which is a private arena of a particular community and tradition. And therefore, without subjugating them, without slaving them, you are attracting them for a common goal. And the people who become the stakeholder in your world mission never believe that, they don't believe that they are getting subjugated either by force or willful. This is the world mission, what we call Vishwaguru. Then this history does not, as Maurice Godelier has rightly said, that history does not explain. It has to be explained. When we are explaining the history, we have to think certain developments which took place after independence. The challenge and opportunity was to resurrect the Bharat's ethos. What Kamalapati Tripathi said in the Constituent Assembly, he was a congressman. But highly Indianized vision he had exhibited in that Constituent Assembly. But there was the end of the quest. We got the independence. With the independence, the end of the quest. When we say end of the quest, it means that the Congress policies and programs, not as a party, but as a movement, has certain what I call infantile disorder. Right from the beginning, the Congress was established in 1885 to 1947. The party had passed the organization, which was a platform against imperialism. 423 resolution on minority issue. 423 resolutions since 1885 to 1947. But this party could not pass a single important resolution on the coercion of the India's culture, coercion of the India's demography, undermining the Indian civilization ethos by the imperialism. Imperialism was not a thinking machine. I am quoting one French Fanon. Although he was a Marxist, but his vision on imperialism is very, very important, particularly in the context of Africa, Asian countries, and Latin American countries. He said imperialism is not a thinking machine. It is a violence in a natural state. And this imperialism can be ended by the similar kind of organized, systematic, not revengeful, but a judicious violence against the imperialism. Then you can end the vestige of the imperialism. Unless you end the complete, unless there is a complete end of imperialistic ethos, no country feels it is truly decolonized. That happened with India. If I give two examples, that's G. Ramchandran on 19th August 1959 in the Rajyasabha raised the question. 1959 means 12 years after independence. He raised the question why there were structures of King George Queen Victoria, Edward King on the Indian side. This was a moral question. It had nothing to do with the economic advancement of the country. It had nothing to do with the political advancement of the country. We had parliamentary democracy. And that democracy has established before the world that even without the high index of literacy, there is a successful mass democracy in India, which we have proved before the world. Free and fair election, a smooth transition through the mandate. This was proven. But that's why G. Ramchandran's 19th August to 1959 question was important. Government's answer was like a lazy decolonizer. Okay, the government said, the minister said, we are thinking to remove at the proper time. 12 years, they couldn't think that these statues should be removed. After a decade, on 5th March 1969, this was a question of 1959. In 1969, Dattopant Thengri, who was a Janasangh leader in the Rajyasabha, raised the question, the two seats of the power in India, sovereignty in India, North Bloc and South Bloc, carried the signs and structure of the British imperialism. Again, the similar kind of answer by the lazy decolonizers, led by our people known to be sovereign of the country. But one can question that why there was a hurry if they have not removed what was wrong. It could be removed at any time. So I'm connecting French pheno with the Indian situation. In India, it is August, and we are now 9th August 1942, and this is the 9th August 2021. In the same month, on 11th August, how French pheno is true. When 6,000 crowd moved towards the Patna Secretariat to unfurl the tricolor, it was led not by elderly people, but 5 9th class students, 1 10th class student, 1 11th class students. Har Gobind and Ramanand were the 9th class students. Everybody carried the flag. William Archer was the district magistrate of Patna. He ordered to shoot anyone who is moving to unfurl the flag, and the boy was killed. Then another boy was killed. After him, the Satish Prasad was killed. Devi Pada was killed. So all the 7 boys, 5 4th 9th class, 1 6th class, another 9th class, 11th class, and 10th class, and 11th class. All 7 boys were killed, although they were successful in unfurling the tricolor. This is not an exceptional example. Baji Raut in Odisha, he was just 12 years old when he was leading the crowd of freedom fighters of 10,000. He was killed by the British. He was martyred by the British bullets. Kanaklata Barua in Assam, and same Mehta, one Mehta, 15-year-old Mehta, he was in Maharashtra. All were 15 years, 16 years, 17 years old boys and girls. They were killed, and Taleswari Barua in Assam was just 12 years old. Sisir Kumar Mehta was 15 years old. So this state of violence was not intended only to a section of the people, but this was barbarian of the highest stage. Therefore, what I want to say, this 75th year is an occasion while to celebrate our material advancement, also critically understand the forces and traits in historical forces and decisive forces which played vital role during the freedom movement. By critically understanding them, we can formulate the narratives of moral advancement. Unless we formulate, we cannot decide the direction how to celebrate, because celebration is not an absolute idea that enjoying our achievement. Celebration is a partially enjoyment of our achievements, success, and also partially re-examining, reorienting, and rethinking our own position in the independent India. Today, I use this jacket. There is a reason for that. Generally, I don't use very colorful jackets. The reason is that this jacket was sent to me by a small tribe, Idu Mismi tribe of Arunachal Pradesh. This Idu Mismi tribe in Arunachal Pradesh lives in Anani in a Diwan Valley. You can know about them. On 5th August of this year, I had a question in the Rajyasabha. I'm telling you what happened in the parliament with G. Ramchandran's question, the Tupantengri's question, and later I will also mention one, let's see, Atal Bihari Vajpayee's question in the Rajyasabha. I will come to that after this incident. How we have created a mindset of the people. That is the mindset of we are alienated with our own culture. We think in colonial terms and colonial contexts. We could not change the context and terms and references of our thought process. It is not merely Eurocentric. It's a matter of renaissance of mind. I don't say decolonization of mind. It is we require a renaissance of mind. Renaissance itself is enlightenment. Enlightenment of mind. Enlightenment not a very subjective, it is a very objective idea. Enlightenment about the actual realities of the nation, social, cultural, political, and economic. So I raised the question about this enemy is at the border of India-China. 4,489 people. The reason of question was the suicide rate is very high in this tribe. So I wanted to adopt this village. And I was planning to go, but due to COVID, I could not go there. I already adopted a village in Meghalaya, Kongthong, which is a visiting village. A village in Turkey, Koskov, is a part of intangible cultural heritage of UNESCO. But our village was not known to even Indians, that this is our heritage. We claim our diversities. We celebrate our diversity, but we are unknown to our own diversity. So I was planning to adopt that village, but the COVID created a hurdle between me and the enemy. But this could not stop me to raise a question in the parliament on their suicide. But there was a part of the question was, this tribe considered themselves or linked themselves with the lineage of Rukmini, revered Rukmini, who was wife of Bhagwan Krishna. I had not raised the question that whether she was a lineage or they are lineage of Rukmini or not. I said they consider themselves lineage of the Rukmini. Therefore, the question advanced in other direction. The reply of the bureaucracy of this was a written question. A written question generally replied by the bureaucracy that there is no record with the tribal ministry that this community belongs to is a lineage of revered Rukmini. I understood the continuation of the mindset, context, reference point is the same which the Britishers had. That's why I use the term for ourselves. When I collectively blame ourselves that we are a very, very lazy decolonizer. In 1966, you will be surprised. Atal Bihari Vajpayee had raised a question in the Rajyasabha about Mohan Lakshman Ranade. He was fighting against the Portuguese domination on Goa. He was arrested in 1955. He was given 25 years imprisonment. And the government of India, when we are an independent nation state, our own government, we claim Swaraj, and government of India had released 3,500 Portuguese prisoners. They could not ask the bureaucracy which was in negotiation under the political leadership. They couldn't ask the Portuguese to at least release one Mohan Lakshman Ranade from their prison. His mother, who developed blindness, and the Red Cross Society's president advised her to give to present her case before the United Nations and also the government of Portugal, so that she should be allowed to see her son. Portuguese government bluntly said no. Efforts of the government of Mexico, United Arab Emirates, these states, Ranade was popular there. Their efforts were abysmally failed. And Vajpayee raised this question in 1966, but unfortunately, the then Foreign Affairs Minister M.C. Chagla was more honest. He said it is a failure on the part of the government of India. I don't consider only the failure on the part of the government of India. I consider it a collective failure of the Indian people, because we moved from in 1947 to post 1947 with unformulated narrative. With the unformulated narrative, whatever comes with a dominant idea, we carried away by that idea. One dominant individual come with certain different idea, we move to that idea. So we don't know where to move, left, right, or center. How to move, what to achieve. That is the reason. So at the 75th year of independence, post-independence, the basic challenge and opportunity before us to come out from an unformulated narrative and formulate a macro narrative for India. What is that narrative? You know, in 1931, that instance is very important. Mahatma Gandhi, while delivering a lecture in London, International Institute of International London Institute of International Affairs, Royal Institute of International Affairs, he blamed the Britishers for destroying the Indian education system. And when he said that you are a beautiful tree perished. He was countered by the imperialist, and Philip Hotto, who was once a vice chancellor of Dhaka University, he delivered a Joseph Paine lecture after 2 years. After preparation of 2 years, he challenged Gandhi that no, it was not Britishers, you yourself destroyed your education. Whatever that, but I'm coming to the real core point that in India there was, before Kashi, Kanchi, Puram and others important centers of learning. I'm coming to the just during the colonial period. Nadia was a place which was known as, from their I'm using their phraseology. I don't like their phraseology. They would call our Nadia the Oxford of India. We don't need their vocabulary for our characterizing our Indian situation or Indian people or Indian place or places of learning. But Nadia has, there in Bengal, there are 3 centers. That was Navadip, Santipura and Golpara. Only Navadipa had 4,000 students, 150 teachers. So this kind of intellectual development which were taking place in India, that give India an idea. The idea was so dominant that it transcended the limits of geography and time. And the quest of idea continued even during the Mughal regime, the British regime, despite the coercion, despite the intellectual our arrested intellectuals, or during the colonial period, the compromised intellectuals who morally compromised with the British regime. So this we have to create a vision for India through the education. It is the only way, although this is the longest way, but since this is the only way, so this is the shortest way to become the part and dominant part, not I call her hegemonic part, to democratically define the world narrative and leading that narrative. How can we do it? You just see that at 70, we have spent 75 years. I call it spending 75 years. I don't blame the scientific community. I don't blame the social reformers. I don't blame the social and cultural organizations. I blame the Indian intellectuals and the Indian state. For spending means it is semi-spoiling the time. We could not create a single center of learning in India, which in true sense Indian, which could even decode the things which took place during the colonial era. Our knowledge of colonial period has passed through the colonial and Marxist filter system. Only those things were supplied in the textbook, written in the textbook, or disseminated, which creates a great bond between the ex-colonial forces and India. The real intention was not allowing India to realize the worth of its civilization. So unrealized worth remains suppressed even after 7 decades of independence. I'm telling that just one example. K.P. Jaiswal wrote Hindu Polity. In that Hindu Polity, he has certain sentences I'm reading. We are not yet in a position to reconstruct complete history of the constitutional developments of the race. That's a very beautiful book. He was not a political scientist, but he wrote very based on research, empirical facts, and I'm giving one example of that. Whatever the world claims and the world literature claims, Marx also claimed the stateless society. India experimented that. We had one state which was ruled by 2 rulers. There are examples of one, and I'm giving that the state was Avanti. The ruler's name was Vinda and Anvinda. There were directly 2 rulers at the same time. A state ruled by 2 rulers. There was Malwa, that was kingless. There was no king. A state ruled without the king. It was a harmonious society. Intellectual and material progress of that society took place. We have an example of Ashok, who said, I am the sovereign of the half apple. Because when he wanted to give money to some institution which he wanted to give, the prince, along with the minister, stopped him. He said, no, this cannot be given. Because this is not required under our own constitution, our own tradition. So Ashoka said that time, I am the sovereign of the half apple. So these things, these are really missing. When someone says or unravels these things, the listener can consider that something imaginary things coming from other planet. North Indian does not know about the rules and dynasty of the South Indian. And South Indian students don't know the rules and dynasties in the North Indian. They just know these certain names because they are compelled to know due to their competitive examination. Do you think that? any nation can claim its civilizational past, continuity of that civilization, evolution of that civilization, and remain in a forgetful stage. We'll feel forgetfulness. That this is the stage where our social sciences, our polity, our people live in just material era, contemporary era. We consider material advancement and our civilizational and moral growth is a part of general studies. They are confined to competitive examination, just for certain lectures, seminars, just to prove the worth of the speaker, to prove his or her own worth. That I know the ancient history, but I blame the speakers, including me, that speeches are not important. Resurrecting the values of the past and contextualizing with the present to create an intellectual weapon for the future, for the posterity, is the real challenge and opportunity. Therefore, I consider that this is a stage when we all should think in terms of India's moral advancement and decolonizing our textbook, and we should think that how can we prepare ourselves to give India and the posterity particularly a holistic knowledge system. So what the foreigners say, the idea of India, that idea of India is not an experiment of secular democracy, so-called secular democracy of the West or Marxist value system. They can be experimented on our soil, and we are experimenting. But it's true that our own heritage, our own intellectual tradition, and our own dream and imagination of the future. So our dream and imagination should be shaped in the light, in the context of civilization with civilizational continuity with evolution. That's all. I thank all the organizers and those who are part of today's discourse. Although it is a monologue, there is no question. I think there's no question. So it is a monologue, but monologue is always dangerous. Whatever I say, I can say right. Nobody has opportunity to contest and contradict me or remove the confusion. Through lecture, I can create the confusion. So, and I also afraid that most of the people must be thinking that SWARAJYA 75, I will celebrate we have reached to Mangalayaan, and this number of people are using mobiles, this number of people are literacy. So I think that these are achievements. So I created dialectics between the moral and material advancement. I think it may be useful, it may not be useful, but whatever I had my idea in my mind, I spoke. Thank you again, and particularly Bhavna ji and Suma ji, that they have given me opportunity, and Disha Bharat for doing good job and good narrative, and you continue with that narrative, and I will be part of the audience next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rakesh Sinha ji. It was indeed a pleasure to listen to you. Sir, we do have a few questions. With your permission, could I? Yes. So today, being 9th August, we remember Gandhiji for the Quit India movement. And soon after soon after our independence, Gandhiji quoted the ideal way of governance would be Ramarajya, like what Rama is Maryada Purushottama for all of us and is the epitome of moral values. So, what is your view on this? You have spoken about the dilemma between moral and material. So, can you elaborate a little more on that?
No, I think Ramarajya, when Gandhi says, he says in 3 contexts. One, we know that moral context, that when I say moral context, it is not merely that you should be philanthropic. His idea of trusteeship is very important. That trusteeship is that any country or nation or civilization can stabilize itself only when the difference very poor, complete equality is a misnomer, is an utopia. But minimizing the inequality is one of very important tasks before the nation state. That's why he has given that the idea of justice is not much debated. It became only the part of text. One. Second Ramarajya was that that indigenous narrative should be the basis of our intellectual growth. Gandhi always emphasized, in the SWARAJYA is this example, that he had not quoted any foreign source, indigenous tradition. And what we lack, Bhavanaji, that is an important thing that, and I praise Britishers for that. During the British regime, they did a very intensive, extensive survey of India, not of geography, not of wealth, but also the people, tradition, tribes, micro, extensive. You just go through the census, 8 census reports of the British regime. And we, after independence, could not do such single extensive, intensive survey. What we know of our social realities, right from economy to sex, through the Pew's research or Harvard's research, when they do research, our newspaper flash the first headline, and our intellectuals, we all intellectuals start discoursing what Pew has said about India's secularism, what they are telling about the Indian people's perspective of sex. So from economy to sex, the Indian reality is reflected by the foreigners. It is not laziness, it is incapacity. We have, over the years, we have developed incapacity. So Gandhiji was against this incapacity. So creating capacity, that is the moral capacity, in the reality, confronting the reality, resolving the reality by our own sources, what we in management say, management by exception. You take the help of others when you are not in the position to help yourself. One. A second is that creating narrative from indigenous sources and tradition.
Sir, thank you for that answer. So another question we have, very interesting one, this. You spoke about education as an important tool and perhaps the only tool for achieving who we are, understanding who we are. So we have developed a little bit in our education after our independence. As a member of, as you being an academician and also being the member of Rajyasabha, what is your take on the National Education Policy or the NEP 2020, and how much do you think it will be able to transform our education system?
Look, this National Education Policy is definitely an advancement over the past. For the first time, Indian education policy recognizes the need to regenerate our own intellectual, cultural resources. But apart from the government policies, there are two quick points, two small but very important quick points. One, that unless we have the inspiring intellectual leadership, it is not the textbook which inspires. Textbook is an inorganic thing. Individual leadership is an organic thing. Unless the intellectual leadership comes to inspire the posterity to go to the past with a passion for the present and for the posterity. So all 4 P's, passion, present, posterity, and past, and led by the intellectual leaders, that we lack. We end quoting with Bipin. Last intellectual was Radha Krishna. Before that, Lal Bal Pal, Rajnarayan Basu. If you can quote any intellectual whom I can ask my children to put his photo frame on the table to get inspiration for studying the past and knowing India, then I will be thankful to you. I'm searching such people, and we have to, out of ourselves, someone has to come as an inspiring figure. Dharma, Glani, Bharati, Bharata, this, we should not depend on this quote. We have to become some intellectual one. Second, what I find that, what I mentioned in my speech, that South Indians don't know about the North Indians dynasty. You know what Shankardeva wrote in Assam, and Thiruvalluvarji wrote in Tamil, or Samarth Ramdas wrote in Marathi. So the scores of the people, but the language which is asset for the country has become a liability for the culture. So we fail to create a cultural consensus. And one last point, which is very important, which I failed to mention in my main lecture, we should also know. If a society progresses when there is a cultural consensus on science and symbols. And we must see the reality in a very raw form. We should not hesitate to speak reality. If I go to the Muslim areas, my Muslim brothers and sisters, they are as patriotic as I am. I don't disclaim their patriotism, their connectivity with the country. But my question is that, if I, in true sense, I ask them a question, if Pew comes, America, because in India there is no think tank, they will do that. Here there are government institutions with a huge fund, demanding huge funds, asking the Niti Aayog, give this fund, that fund, doing nothing. All research, 90% research are not in the position to get published and to be quoted. So what they say? They are not translating even our own literature, classical literature. Europe has created a center of classical literature where all Roman literature, Greek literature are at one place, but we are not in the position of that. That's why I say that this is a great challenge. The challenge cannot be met in 1 year or 1 decade. The challenge, if you have not to fight with the Europe, we have to not to compete. We don't have to fight or compete. We have to fight and compete with ourselves. Whether we live in the shallow present intellectual growth or we go to the depth of intellectual, that is the challenge. And that this challenge is beyond the national education policy. No education policy can solve. All the intellectuals who have proved a turning, who have created a historic moments, are Marx to Kautilya. They all are outside the university system. You mark that. Not a single intellectual from the university system could create history in the world, in the entire civilization. So we think that is a Renassa. Renassa does not come from the university. They do postmortem. So don't depend on that. This is, but as far as you ask the question, as a Rajyasabha member, and also this education policy is very advancement, good education policy, and as Prime Minister has said that if we honestly follow this education policy, naturally this will give a very good platform to the Indians for the future and posterity.
Yes, thank you. Thanks a lot for that answer. So do we have time for one more question?
You can ask 10 questions. I am free.
Okay, fine. Then we have 2 or 3 more questions then. So the other thing that you also brought out in your speech about how materialism and how material advancement is going on, and because we are all running behind materialism, post-independence, we have Swarajya and we have our own people ruling us. And you gave a lot of examples how questions were asked in the parliament and what were the answers that were given. But we also see that our judiciary, bureaucracy, legislature, they have our own people, but still there are internal conflicts. And corruption is a big problem in our society. How do you see this and what is your response on this?
We have a democracy, and honestly speaking, that democracy is the electoral democracy. Democracy is not the counting of the heads. Democracy is contribution in the empowerment of the people and defining people above the all petty narrow divisions. But the contemporary democracy is doing just reverse. We have a reverse democracy. In 1950s, there was less casteism, more feudalism. Now we have both casteism and feudalism with us. In 1950s, if you call someone as a rightist, you would have protested. No, I'm not a rightist. Now people are here to claim rightist in the Western context. So in India, I'm not going to Western democracy and the older Soviet Union. I'm coming to the India that is here, democracy is a structural democracy. Nobody has worked till the date except Gandhi, JP, Vinoba. These three names. No other individual, no other organization has honestly worked for empowering the people, including myself. We all are part and stakeholder in the contemporary democracy, which is power-centric democracy, which creates individualism, which creates casteism, which creates communalism, which divides society in multitudes, not in 2 or 3 parts. Now there is a demand for caste census, which we left in 1931. Now in 2021, after 90 years, the demand for the caste census. See the reversal of the democracy. Therefore, I consider that if we are honest to the core, we have to go beyond the party system, party democracy, and electoral politics. These are important things. They will continue. They will continue with these melodies. But when the democracy outside the party system works, without carrying the people in power and opposition, without carrying the party system's discourse, then party system can be corrected. Party system can't be corrected from inside. This is a false claim. If anybody claims that I can correct the party system within the party system, he's disclaiming himself, declaiming himself. I'm giving one example. Jayaprakash Narayan was part of the Congress. He realized that party system cannot correct the party system, could not correct the party system. So he started talking partyless democracy. That was utopia. And ultimately he had to come to the party system. But remaining outside the party system, he has strengthened the democracy. So paucity of the people who could disconnect with the power, who could disconnect with the idea of individualism, casteism, and communalism, and work for the empowerment of the people is a holistic idea. It is not a divided and deconstructed idea. We are creating a deconstructed people. For people of Jadwas, people of Reddy, people of Kama, people Lingayat, people upper caste, people lower caste. So how many people we create? That is the problem, Bhavnaji. You have to understand the real problem lies that we don't speak as a political figure. I should avoid to speak all these things, but if I will avoid, I will do the historic mistake with the not only present and past, also the posterity. I don't want to be a criminal before the posterity. This is the truth, and that truth should be accepted. On the basis of that truth, discourse should be initiated, irrespective of the impact on us and you.
Thank you so much, sir. So the onus is on all of us to correct our own conflicts. Now, another question that you also spoke a little on in your discourse is about Bharat being the Vishwaguru. We all talk about it. We all like to say that we want to march towards Bharat being the Vishwaguru. It's a conceptual thinking for now. But what are some of the simple steps, or may not be so simple also, but what are some of the steps that as individuals, as common man, we can take to achieve this concept of Vishwaguru?
Before coming to that, I will give you an example of Roman Empire. Why there was a decline of Roman Empire within few decades? The empire was built in centuries. Decline in decades. The only material advancement was considered sine qua non, and undermining their own intrinsic intellectualism. Society means good bridges, good roads, good rails, good houses, all luxuries. That advancement is good. Creation of wealth is good. Disbursement of wealth is good, but wealth must be under the master of wealth should be idea. the sovereignty of idea, Roman Empire lost, and with the losing the sovereignty of idea, the empire declined. Therefore, I consider that what we require to do, the first step is to first to know the actual realities, hard realities of the country. A tribal in Bastar is not our enemies. Instead of blaming the urban Naxals, that is one part of thing. They are doing wrong thing. They are provoking the people of violence. But is it not true that violence leads the expansion of democracy? My counter question is that because violence takes place, so government goes with the development work, irrespective of the party in the center or state. If violence does not take place, government is lethargic. If violence takes place, then government goes with the offer of the many welfareist measures, and empowers the people. So the counter question we should ask to ourselves: is it also true that when violence takes place, then democracy expands to that area and that people? So first step is to realize the true realities of India: tribal people, Dalit people, caste people, non-caste people, religion. So think tanks should be created. Thousands and hundreds of think tanks should be created. They should be independent of the state. They should be independent of the parties and the organizations. They should go and work for just to, but their mission should be to know the country, not to create competing identities, which was the British mission. Only thing is that it is not that it is guiding them, not controlling them. One second important thing that when we realize the true Indian reality, naturally in the course of realizing the true Indian reality, we will develop the idea. When we go through some literature or some monuments, the idea crops up. Mind is a thinking mind. We are not animals. Even animals are thinking. So thought process generates. So because Indian idea is, we have tendency to universalize everything. But European has tendency to create a narrow thing. Out of universe, they create a narrow. We from out of macro to we create a macro. They want to control the world by one macro narrative. We want to don't control. So the example that how the Buddhism expanded through the idea. But the material progress, without material progress, mental progress cannot work. Only India could expand this idea only when its material growth was at the peak. So I'm not condemning the growth of materialism. I'm condemning the imbalanced growth of idea and individual, mental and material. When society should collectively grow, material power should grow, but mental power should not be undermined, or mental power should not allow others to undermine. We should not be beggars. And should I say a small story?
Yes, please.
I mentioned about the Nadia, that place in Bengal. It was during the 18th century. One teacher was Ramnath. Outside Navadip was a center which was called the Oxford of India. But he, from the campus of the Navadip, he started a cottage and started teaching and preaching students. So the teacher of logic and mathematics. One day, the king Savi Chandra reached to his house and asked his wife, "Do you want any help from me?" She said, "Yes, I have 2 saris and other two pairs of clothes. I have one dari jo jis par hum log sote hain. And I don't need other thing. I have a bangle of one bangle, one gale mein jo aap log pehante hain wo hai. So I don't need other things." He was surprised. Then he went to the teacher Ramnath. He said, "Do you need anything?" I said, I am capable to explain logic and mathematics. I think if I will need some, I will lack explaining, then I will come to you." Then he asked the students. He said, "We are content to have teachers in understanding logic and mathematics." This Savi Chandra was the same king from whom William Jones took help. William Jones, the Orientalist, the great Orientalist, he took help in learning Sanskrit and other things. So this is the real interaction which Mohan Bhagwat ji, in one of the speeches where I was present, he said very, very important thing. In India, to become an intellectual, you have to become a sant. Without becoming a sant, you cannot become an intellectual. So this is the prerequisite that we have to develop the tradition of that intellectual discourse outside the university system, and also university system should flourish. I don't want to undermine that. We should strengthen the public institutions. If we will strengthen the public institution, then individual will flourish. You will strengthen the individual, institution will decline. So the things decline with the rise and fall of the individual. But institution does not decline in a day or day. Even if it declines, it takes 10 years, 20 years. By that time, someone will come to save the intellectual. So my thing is that to become the Vishwaguru, which I say the becoming the dominant stakeholders in the democratically defined narratives of the state. That is the world. Nothing, there's no chair like that Nehru Fellowship or Churchill Fellowship of World Guru, Vishwaguru. This is the becoming your dominant narrative when it is accepted, not hegemonic, dominant narrative accepted by the people, that this narrative is helpful in their cultural, social, political, mental, economic, sexual, and every aspect of life, then that narrative makes you a Vishwaguru.
Very beautifully explained the concept of Vishwaguru, sir. Thank you very much. Now, one last question. Disha Bharat as an organization, we deal a lot with the youth of our country, the student community also. So what is your message for the student community and the youth on this 75th year of Indian independence?
That we should get inspiration of what Baji Raut had done, Taleswari Barua had done, Ramanandan Hargovind had done, and also how the people achieved the independence by shedding their blood just for the future. When Bhagat Singh was hanged, his martyrdom should be complemented our maximum sacrifice we need to do. And the best sacrifice is that whatever the mission we have, we should be honest to that. If we are speaking in public domain honest words, then the country can be saved from the perils. If we speak something in the drawing room, speak something else for the outside, the manner, the inner and outer expression should become one, then that individual becomes inspiring. He becomes the part of future history. The moment that there is a separation between the two, he becomes hypocrite. No nation can achieve the moral goal through the hordes of hypocrites. But a nation can achieve the goal even there is one person which makes which even obliterates the narrow lane between the public and private life. That is my message to the people, that study with the passion, think in terms of posterity, and minimum material use. Luxury should not be the objective of life. The moment you enter in the era of luxury, the moment you enter in the era of possessiveness of wealth, what Maharshi Arvind said, it is the possessiveness of the wealth which creates a real problem. Then you are not serving the country. We are deserving the country. We are deserving the future generation. That is my message to the students who are part of your institution and movement or organization.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed a pleasure to listen to you. Few things that really struck me was one of the things that you said, master of wealth must be ideas. I think I will carry that message a long time now. You are all of what you said, having the equanimity between material progress and intellectual progress is the way forward, and education is perhaps not the longest way, not the shortest way, but it is the only way for development of Bharat towards Vishwaguru. Thank you for that message once again. On behalf of Disha Bharat, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude. Thank you very much for the enlightening discourse on SWARAJYA 75 Bharat after independence. Yes, your discourse has really shaken us, and it has really told, personally for myself, we have a lot to do, and only by all our collective efforts can Bharat be the Vishwaguru that we all dream of. Thank you very much once again, sir. before we conclude, I would like to give a couple of information to our viewers. Tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, we are back with our student programs. Here we have Shri Ganesh ji, an internationally renowned magician who is going to be interacting with our students. And we have, as you all know by now, we have patriotic songs, an inspiring story of Rashbihari Bose. Then we have like what we saw, like what we are doing now through the social media, how to strengthen My Bharat through social media. Students are going to give their ideas on that. Bhagat Singh is going to be brought to life by the mono acting of students, and tributes, dancing tributes to Bharat Mata is also lined up for you. Then we are all progressing towards the 75th year of independence, and we cannot do it without remembering the Dandi March. So we have a speech on that, and finally we have a poetry by our young minds, the writing skill that is coming out, Nanna Samskruti Nanna Hemme. So this is at for all of you tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Do join us at that time. And tomorrow in the evening at 6 o'clock, same time, we are ready to welcome another amazing guest, Professor Sunaina Singh, the Vice Chancellor of Nalanda University, Bihar, to talk us all on a very dear subject, education and innovation in Bharat, journey since 1947. I hope all of you join back with us tomorrow and till August 15th to celebrate My Bharat. Yes, this is our celebration, our pay, what we can do little to this great nation who has given so much to all of us. Thank you very much. Shubhratri. Namaskar.